Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. This is going to be my Gotham episode 15 video, or my Scarecrow video, however you want to think about it, all about the birth of the Jonathan Crane Scarecrow. It was a lot of fun meeting his father in this two-part episode. The way I think of it is it's like the next step in the way Gotham tells stories. Previously, like the first half of the season, we met like a couple people's fathers, but we really didn't get to see any of those little kids take on their villain personas. Like we got to see Thomas Elliot as Hush, but we didn't get to see any Hush-related stuff. I feel like this kind of episode is the writers listening to the fandom. We want to see things that are more like the comics. Surprisingly, for an episode that featured the Scarecrow so much, there weren't quite that many Easter eggs, at least not as many as I usually find in episodes. But let's start with top 5 moments, so just careful for spoilers from the episode if you haven't seen it yet. Number 5, Fish Mooney finds some new friends. I know a lot of people in last week's episode thought that person that bull rushed her was Monsieur Mallah. We really don't know where she's at right now. I think that the show will answer that. It'd be crazy if she was on like Corto Maltese. I feel like that's an island that they can share on all the DC TV shows. If you're not familiar with that, it's actually an island that was created by Frank Miller in the story Dark Knight Returns. It's like a port of call for criminals, drug traffickers, all the really awful people in the DC universe. The rape stuff was a little on the nose, but I understand they did it just to tee up her kicking ass. Clearly, she's taking over the prison population. She'll use them to rush back into Gotham and cause a bunch of trouble for Penguin, Falcone, everybody else. The episode was all about facing your fear, or maybe living with fear, because I guess now Jonathan Crane is stuck with his nightmare for the rest of his life. What do you think that Fish Mooney is afraid of? Probably just being weak. The backstory that she narrated in the first part of the season was actually false. Like she told this big story about her mother, the prostitute. It turned out she was lying. Clearly that dancer right next to her was her mother. But I think she's just someone who came from nothing, so she's scared to go back to nothing. Given her trajectory in this episode, I think she's going to come screaming back into Gotham pretty soon. Penguin got kicked out at the beginning of the season. He came roaring back. She told Bullock she'd be back. I think she's going to make good on that promise. Speaking of which, number 4, office romances never work out. Trust me. Did anyone else's ears prick up when Bullock said that? Like maybe he was talking about something that he did in the past, like he had some kind of office romance that went really, really bad. I don't think he was talking about his relationship with Fish Mooney necessarily, because when we had that flashback for him, when we saw his partner get killed, his old partner, he was a lot more like Jim Gordon. What do you think that Bullock's comment means about Leslie Tompkins and Gordon? I think we're all on the same page. Gotham as a city just eats people's relationships. It's like a goodwill vampire. It just sucks the happiness out of people. On to number 3, Batman camping trip. A lot of you told me you saw like a Batman-shaped leaf or a Batman-shaped pattern whenever he fell down to the ravine. I feel like they're just teasing Batcave. If you go based on the Christopher Nolan trilogy, he's about the right age for finding the Batcave, for falling down into the well. That's why when he was messing with that rock formation, I was like, okay, is he going to fall down the well? What's going on? That's something that I feel like it would be totally okay for the show to do, because it's a huge comic book moment, but it doesn't involve him putting the cowl on. And I think that based on the contract that Fox has with DC and Warner Brothers, he can't put the cowl on. On to number 2, the birth of the Scarecrow. The timeline was a little confusing, but Crane Sr., his father, injected him with all the fear toxin, gave him the exact same treatment that he got. The doctor explained at the end that the physical effects had worn off, but the psychological effects would last forever. So I think that was the same case for Crane Sr. Remember when his dad took the serum for the first time and the staircase lit on fire and he saw his dead wife yelling at him? A couple days later, he was still seeing that vision, so I think it was the same for him. You would constantly be living in a state of fear. Like the way Crane Sr. was talking sounded like he had conquered his fear, so he wasn't hallucinating things anymore. But based on that last scene, it sounds like he was. It's a little bit different from what happens in the comics. Usually when people get dosed with fear toxin, it wears off after a period of time. So presumably Scarecrow tweaks the formula just a little bit so that it's not quite so crazy. Does anybody think it's weird though, how much some of the storylines in the DC TV shows line up with each other unintentionally? Like Arrow has vertigo right now. People are hallucinating just like they're hallucinating with the fear toxin on Gotham. The writing staff for both those shows don't have any overlap. Like they don't talk to each other about the stories that they're writing. The same thing happened during Arrow Season 2 when they did Mirakuru, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. did a Super Soldier Serum storyline. I just think it's funny the way things overlap in a meta way unintentionally. And my number 1 moment, the Joker teaser at the end of the episode. I know there was a lot of confusion about what that clip was actually about. So 1, it teased the Flying Graysons. That was what the circus stuff was about, the circus tickets. 2, yes, that is the Joker character that they're setting up. I have no idea how that's going to play out or what it's going to turn into. The character is only being credited as Jerome. If you read Batman, I think it's Batman 38, they tried to tell a Joker origin story in the comics, but originally in the comics, he doesn't really have the traditional origin story that other characters get. So this is a new thing, trying to tell a history of the Joker. Michael Keaton's first Batman film tried to tell something of a Joker origin story. Even that took some liberties with the comics. So you guys can let me know how you feel about Gotham twisting the origin story of the Joker just a little bit. All TV shows are kind of adaptations, so you have to take it with a grain of salt. Like, okay, they're probably going to change some stuff from the comics, but hopefully they'll stay as faithful as possible. And the only Grayson character that's listed on the cast list for the episode is John Grayson. I know in the comics, Nightwing, Dick Grayson, is a way younger than Bruce. So it's possible that the flying Graysons that are Dick Grayson's parents are really young in this episode, as if it's a long time before they're going to have a son and name him Dick. So here's my big question for you guys. If they're able to do this Joker storyline, if they're able to tee this up, who do you want to see them try next? What I'm really hoping is that the evil Wayne board members that they've been teasing end up turning into a Court of Owls. I'd really like to see them do a Court of Owls storyline. Oh, and I almost made like this entire video and completely forgot about it. But the moment where the Riddler meets the Penguin, it was so much fun. They threw a bunch of shade at each other, just implying that they're not going to be on the best of terms. I think once the Riddler crosses the line and starts becoming more of a villain, then they'll enter into some sort of arrangement. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. So they'll team up because they hate someone more than they hate each other. So in related news, if you guys didn't see it, they just cast Milo Ventimiglia as a new character called Ogre. He's not someone directly out of the comics, but here's the character description for him. Handsome, wealthy, and seductive, the Ogre is a serial killer who has been preying on the young women of Gotham for nearly a decade, luring them into his web and confronting them with a series of tests as he searches for his perfect mate. When the women fail to live up to his impossible standard, he disposes of them quickly and viciously. So he's a serial killer looking for love, Joker Harley Quinn style. He's looking for his Harley Quinn. One thing I didn't mention though, I'm really hoping that Bullock's statement about office romance has something to do with the Riddler and Miss Kringle. It's really hard to tell where they're taking that because she seems like she's slowly warming up to him, but I feel like he is going to do something really crazy. But with any luck, we'll see like a version of Harley Quinn, like the show's interpretation, without her being the actual Harley Quinn character. They're kind of pushing that idea of really twisted relationships with Bullock and Fish Mooney, so I feel like they could totally go there with the Riddler and Miss Kringle. Let me know though, do you want to see Miss Kringle get into some sort of, villainous sexual relationship with the Riddler at a certain point? If he's going to become the Riddler and turn evil and start doing evil things, do you want to see her go with him? It's like evil Jerry Maguire. I'm going to go make some crime. Who's coming with me? So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to get next week's video. We're going to see the Joker. It'll be really interesting to see what the show is going to do with him. If they're seeding him this early, I'm really interested to see if he ties in with the finale, like if he has some bigger part to play. And for those that are asking, yes, I am working on my Agent Carter video. I'll get that out next, and then I'll do my Q&A videos for Arrow the Flash, and then for Spider-Man Marvel. I'm going to try and post all that stuff before the weekend. While you guys wait for all that stuff to drop, you can click here to catch up on Gotham, and you can click here to catch up on Arrow from last night. Thank you so much for watching, so let's all high five. I'll see you guys tonight.